Welcome to MTM Travel, where I am buying Hilton gift cards $50 at a time so I can embarrass myself later by cashing them in at some rich luxury property.
Yeah, if they work, you're gonna embarrass yourself when you go to swipe and they say declined, and you're like, no, I swear there's money on this.
So it's getting towards the end of the year, Mark, which means that it's kind of quiet in the news space and news realm. And, you don't get new credit cards or new welcome offers, and everybody sort of just battens down the hatches until the end of the year, trying to get all your credits and plan for next year. And I don't know, it can be stressful. Are you stressed out right now? I'm not stressed out only because I'm completely ignoring everything. I haven't even started dealing with all the credits I need to get. But this week is the week. I'm doing it this week. Never wait till the last week, because with Amex especially, you want to make sure those credits post and you don't have to go back and fix it all later.
Yeah, I'm more of like a get it done first thing kind of guy. The first couple weeks of January, I try to knock out all the big credits, or if you sign up for a new card, try to get that done first thing, like the Dell credits, the Amex airline incidentals, portal credits, travel credits, everything like that, major. The Resi type things. Like I have never used my Resi credit on my Delta card because like for $20, I'm not going to stress about it every month. It's just too much. I use the gold one, $50. It's just once every 6 months. That's a bit easier to focus on. Plus, it's good for dining and everything. So, did all that, but yeah, even so much so that I was just talking to our buddy Matt Perchik. He's going to be on the trip to Singapore and Thailand and all that with me, and he's like, "Hey, space opened up at the Conrad in Singapore. Do you want to move to that?" I'm like, "Well." I talked about last episode how I have the surpasses that I added at the end and have to do the 15K scramble that's the only thing that's been stressing me out this year. So finish the spend for both. First one hit, second one, I'm just waiting for Amex to catch up to the spend. They're always like 4 or 5 days behind. So I'm like, hey, those should be rolling in and I'll book it. It's only 70, I think it's 70K a night. He's like, well, I have lots of points, so I'll just use the book points. I'm like, well, you know me. Like, as soon as I get the free night, I want it gone. Like, I want to use it. I don't want to think about it again.
The Conrad in Singapore, I'd be interesting to hear what you think of it. I stayed at it before they renovated it, and the rooms hadn't been done in like 20 something years, and it was very, very old school. But I like the location there. It's right by Marina Bay and all of that stuff, so it's a cool property down there. But yeah, I did some Dell stuff this week. I always wait around the Black Friday-ish time just so I can get 15X with Dell. It does come a couple other times a year. I would say, don't do it for less than 10% back with Dell if you're strategically doing it for yourself. Some people do it for buyers clubs, stuff like that. You do it when it can come. But I finally reached the point in my Dell career where I'm putting hue lights everywhere. I did last year. I put some can lights in, and now I got all the landscaping lights, which are incredibly overpriced, but they work wonderfully, and my yard is going to be amazing. So I bought a bunch of those, and then I have a bunch more to buy in January since the Dell credit is extended. We talked on 20-Minute Travel about how the Dell credit may be going away after the middle of next year. We don't really know, but I guess I'm okay with that because I don't really have anything else to buy other than lights at this point.
Well, Dell's so terrible. They cancel so many orders, and it's such a pain. Like I'm down to one business platinum anyway, so it's not a big stress to me like it used to be when no lifetime language offers were coming out in bunches, and we had like 5 or 6 business platinums, and you're trying to burn all those. The good thing is I have a 13-year-old son, and as Connor said, times are tough out there, so I've been getting his birthday presents and stuff through Dell. It's pretty easy. Like for Christmas, actually all of his gifts are from Dell. It's going to be a pro style. The expensive Xbox One controller is a big part of it. Fitbit for his new phone that he finally paid off, and then the other one is a Blue Yeti mic because he wants to get into like recording stuff and making videos and things like that. So got him those 3 things all through Dell, which makes me happy.
We talked for years about this, about how you do everything early and I procrastinate on everything, and how your way of doing things is better than mine. But here we are, and I have gotten better. At least I don't wait till that last week of the year, like I said, because I've run into problems with.
Good job.
Yeah, second to last improvement over the years. But then you just get it all done at once, and I have way too many platinum cards I signed up for, so I need to pare that down as well. My friend and I also do a yearly walk on the Strip to go to Saks, so we have that scheduled for next weekend. I don't have that many platinum. I only have 2 platinum cards at this point, So it's not a huge deal, but we just go in and buy the gift cards. And my wife is saving up for her fancy purse. I don't know. We're in like year 7 or 8 of her saving up Saks gift cards. I don't know how much she has.
Every time I walk around the one at our mall, I'm like, who shops here? Like, who looks at these clothes and thinks that they look good? And I guess I'm out of touch with fashion or whatever, but it all looks horrible. Like nothing that I would want to buy or wear or anything. It's not even price tags. It just looks like it could be $7. And I'd be like, no, I'm not buying that. It looks like garbage. I don't know. And it always feels uncomfortable in there. And I hate it. I hate the credit the way it is, buying the gift cards, whatever. We get it done. We do what we got to do. But I took the kids in there and there is kind of a maze of trying to find a cash register that has somebody standing near it so you can get it done because there's not normal checkouts. Each little area has their own checkout. It's just, I hate it. The mall is so 2002. Like, let's move on.
It's called a department store, Mark. That's why.
Whatever.
So one of the things I like to do at the end of the year, I start planning travel. I don't know. It's like this time of year with the holiday season gets me going and the cold temperatures. I don't know. I like to really plan stuff. So I've been looking towards spring break. Now I do understand that most people probably have already planned their spring breaks by now. Yeah, here I am 3-4 months out. Yeah, this is a theme with me, procrastination. But I was, deciding, and last year we did that last minute trip to Paris and Lisbon, Portugal. Wanted to do that drone show at Disneyland Paris. Obviously, Portugal was spectacular. I talked about all of that on the podcast. And it really beat us up, though. Jet lag was sort of the theme of that. And I came back. I didn't enjoy myself all that much there because I couldn't sleep very well. And then when I got back, it was brutal. And so I just decided I don't want to do something that big. So I think we're going to head down south, try to keep the time zones there, either do Central America or South America. And then I was just debating, we've been to Colombia before, but it's been 10 years since we've been there. Want to go back to Bogota. It's like, boom, there's a beautiful Grand Hyatt there. There's a lot of stuff. And this is really a big problem for travelers is, do you go back to places you've been? There's so many new places to go, but it's been 10 years. I've only been to Colombia once. It was 10 years ago. There's so much for me to see. And it's just always this give and take. And I don't know, because there's other places in South America I would love to go to that I've never been.
Yeah, I've been searching quite a bit in South America because we have a meetup in Rio for the carnival and all that stuff. So finding flights down there, especially that time of year when everybody wants to go to Rio, it was difficult. But the funny thing is, I could find, flights on AA, 25K, business class to Bogota fairly easily. Like almost any time I was searching, that would come up. So that's really good option if you want like a quick trip. I think American through Dallas most of the time is what I was finding. And then Lima was another one that I could get to pull up on Alaska, and book through that. The problem was I could get there and I could spend a night there because I wanted to try to like get two things in on one trip, spend one night, check it out for a full day type of thing. I could not get a decent flight to Rio from there. It was either, economy overnight and stuff like that. It just didn't work out. And so I finally just, bit the bullet and did the Biz Platinum 1.5 cents essentially after the 35% rebate, JFK down to Rio. And that was, I think, like 65K-ish in premium economy, which is okay, whatever. And then I got lucky on the way back. American had a sale and, Rio to JFK to Detroit was 45K in lie flat. So that was like the epic deal, but yeah, and to your point about going back to places, I'm always been team back to places. I think I've written about that a couple of times on Miles Memories. People poo-poo it or look down on it in miles and points, and I like it because you don't really fully experience anything on the first trip. You're not spending 3 weeks there, so you get a taste for a place. If you like it, then you want to go back and explore a little bit more. Especially if you found like one place you really love. Like that's my one place in Rome. I go eat there every time I go, even though Rome is kind of like whatever to me at this point. But I still want to, when I go to Italy, I still want to stop in Rome for at least a night to eat there and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's weird because people who don't travel a lot, they have bucket lists, and I always want to go to this one place and see it. And then, like, I guess the idea is once you see it, then you never need to see it again. I don't really get that. But the more I've traveled, obviously, the more places I've been. And there's always a balance there, right? Because in order to go to a place again, you have to go a first time. So you still need to put new places in there. but you do discover that you want to go back to places. I've also been considering Guatemala for this trip. We backpacked through
Oh, the
Guatemala for,
toilet.
yeah, we backpacked through Guatemala for 2 months though, and I loved it. It's one of my favorite countries, but I haven't really been back. And there's things I want to go back and see. Of course, we wouldn't have a whole lot of time. You're talking about a week here, so that sort of does it. But yeah, the more you travel, the more you see. And I've talked on this show too about London and Paris. I think are great examples for me because neither one of those cities did I like the first couple times I went there. And then now because I've been able to go back and establish my own relationship with them and kind of get outside of some of the tourist areas, I love them and I see why they're such incredible cities and I want to go back. And that's a real deep thing for a traveler is having those personal things like your place in Rome where you go back to. It really enriches your life in a weird way that I don't know that it's easy to explain, but having those romantic sort of relationships with places that you visit over and over again is super powerful.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, or the key there is when you go back to a place, you kind of expand your horizon of where you're willing to go. Like the first time you go to Vegas, you're going to spend all the time on the strip. You're going to just walk up and down the strip, check out all the hotels, go in out of them, and then as you go back more, you're going to go to Arts District, you're going to go to Fremont Street, you're going to go, to the mall downtown.
I love how you're just you're being inclusive for our Vegas viewers, our crossover here. Really making some interesting Vegas references here.
Yeah. What's the outdoor mall downtown Summerlin? There you go. Yeah, good
Okay.
times there. But
Yeah.
you can go check that out when you've done everything else because save it for last. It's really that great. But but no, like that's the thing when you go back to places like, last time we went to New York City, we walked the bridge, spent some time in Brooklyn and stuff. Most of the time when you go to New York, you spend a lot of your time in Manhattan, at least the first several times. Another trip we stayed in Jersey City and experienced Jersey City, then took the boat over and stuff. So you do a little bit different each time and you get a different perspective of it. And I think there are a lot of places that are like that where it's worth like each neighborhood within an area could be a completely different experience. So it's definitely worth it. If you feel like you can't or you shouldn't, don't do that. If you loved it, go back. You'll probably love it even more.
And if you hated it and everybody else loves it, challenge yourself to go back and
Yeah.
see what they love about it. Cause that's some of the, like I said, the most rewarding things I've done. And yeah, I mean, it's a big part of that. So I'm trying to figure this out. Flights, like you said, to Central America, Northern South America, not really that difficult for award space, which makes it kind of easy to sort of figure this out. And obviously, Spanish speaking countries, easier for us. I think Colombia is something that's very overlooked by people. Obviously, you have the reputation from the cartel days and stuff like that. But I really absolutely love the country, just found it incredible. And we were only there for about a week. Medellin, one of my favorite cities I've ever been to. It's just incredibly beautiful. I haven't been to Cartagena, so maybe that's what we'll do is we'll go to Cartagena and Bogota. And so we get to see Bogota, which we've already been to before. I don't know, but I think, just traveling is a big thing for spring break. And I feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like I can't let this is where my feeling is right now. Can't stay home for spring break. Like I have to go somewhere. I'm still like 2 years into this adjusting to this full-time school schedule thing. And it really does suck.
Oh, let me play this little violin over here. Here you go. No, we booked ours a couple months back, and we're doing Bahamar, going to the Bahamas, and I'm excited for that because that's where we went on our honeymoon, and we loved it so much we went back the next year, and that was before miles and points and stuff, and we stayed at the old Radisson there, all inclusive, and now that's a what is it now? It's not in the Bahamar; it's just outside of it. I forget the name of the hotel, but it's still there. Had great times there. We went back for our 10-year anniversary. My wife's been to Baja Mar, but I haven't been back since Baja Mar opened. So I'm excited to check that out. And we're going with some friends, and they have kids that our friends are friends with. So it'll be like our first international trip with the kids and other kids. It's like a big trip. So it's kind of unique. Got a little bit of ratty flights down there, but I booked the whole thing on Alaska for like 22,000 miles round trip, and it's Eastern time zone. So like you said, it's easy flights. We do have like a layover in Charlotte, I think, and we fly down Friday night, spend the night, get up early, fly out at like 7 or 8 a.m. So I ended up doing that. I don't mind those. Some people are like, oh, gross. But would I rather get in late on Friday and spend 25K or whatever it is a night for the hotel down there and not be able to enjoy any of it, or spend 5K by the airport and get down there, get there early, probably a little bit before you can even check in, and get like a full day. Like, I think there's more value there to be had, and we ended up doing it. It was 15K per person for that flight, and it's economy to North Carolina and then business in the morning down. So it was like a mixed itinerary, but I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, the only problem is you're in the Bahamas at the end of all of it. That's just, if I had to pick a least favorite place to visit, I would. I think I would. I'm not saying it's my least favorite place. I don't have to pick one, but
you're acting like it's Atlanta or something.
Atlanta is great. Atlanta is much better than the Bahamas.
Least favorite American place.
But Bahamar is cool, and for people who have never been there, it is a giant. It feels very much like a Vegas side kind of casino resort. But then you obviously have the beach. You have amazing pools. They now have the water park there, which looks really cool. It is a beautiful property. I enjoyed the property, top to bottom. There were a couple service issues, but my biggest issue with the Bahamas is the cost of everything.
The Atlantis?
They had these crazy surcharges. No, but even flying on award flights, how much was your taxes, right? The taxes and fees are insane, like $150 a person or something.
Yeah, that definitely adds up. But you can get decent award. It's like, basically domestic awards sometimes that you get there. So I don't mind paying the fees. That's why I got the Capital One card. I just erase those off, so it doesn't cost me anything. Those are the things, I think we talked about this. Those are the things I use my Capital One miles for. I don't value the transfer partners all that much. So if it allows me to spend a little bit more on property or fly these flights and take care of the award taxes and fees and all of that, it's worth it to me. But no, we love, like, we go downtown, we go to the fish fry, all that stuff. We used to go eat at the restaurant. Now the Four Seasons, the restaurant on there, had a really great time there. And that's a good way to get on the property. If you go have a reservation at, like, I think it's called Dune, the restaurant there is beautiful. You can walk through, see where, like, Casino Royale was filmed. And that property ground is probably the most insane thing I've ever seen anywhere in a hotel. So definitely worth it. And the prices, this was, last time we were there was, 5 years ago or whatever, but the prices weren't all that bad for fine dining. It wasn't anything more than you pay in a big city in the US. So I was kind of surprised by that.
And I do like the water parks at Atlantis. There are things in Nassau that are worth doing. I've done it. I don't get off, like when we stop on cruise ships. I probably did that 3 or 4 times in the last few years. Didn't even get off the ship, so it's not my favorite there. But Atlantis, like, I've had my problems with the hotel. We've talked about that ad nauseum. But I really do love the water park there and how that is. And the one at Bahamar doesn't look quite the same level, but it's pretty cool. And they already had amazing pools at Bahamar. The pools are fantastic. You're right on the ocean. Like, I did like that property. If it was easier to get to for me, then I think I would go more often. Obviously, the cost, the taxes and stuff. And I've said this before, and you're not going to agree. And you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast. But if I'm thinking about Bahamas and then I think about Hawaii, then I just go to Hawaii.
No, but that's the difference. Like, it's 3 hours I can be in the Bahamas and 9 hours for Hawaii or whatever it is. And you're like opposite that, or maybe they're more even. So I get why you're there, and you have that love for it, and you have a nonstop flight into Hawaii, which makes a big difference. And I think we do too, but it's just not, we're talking quite a bit longer and more expensive when you do find award space. So it's give and take, and I get it, and I see why you don't like the Bahamas. But we should say, with Choice making their change to where you can supposed to eventually be able to book, like, awards up to a year out at some places, the biggest hack or the best known not well kept secret or whatever of the Bahamas is you book the Choice Hotel there, and you get access to the Atlantis and the pools and everything. So it's a cheap way to do it. Or if you're either on a cruise, the day pass is very expensive. You could just book a room at the Choice Hotel and then check in there and go over to Atlantis, and then you're not paying for that day pass. So there's a couple ways around it. And the annoying thing was you could only do it, 60 days out or whatever before. And if you can plan this ahead, it'd be a lot better.
Yeah, and I definitely think visiting that water complex and those pools is worth it, even if you're not staying in the hotel. If it makes sense within your day, whether it's on a cruise ship or you're at Bahamar and you want to go over there for the day and do it, I think that hack is still, an amazing hack. And like I said, it's a world-class thing. They let it go. I would be amazed to see what it looks like now, Atlantis, because in 2019, it was in bad shape. But I have heard that they've invested some money, and it is a world-class place despite everything else.
Yeah, I think it's still unique. That was like, you seeing those commercials with that bridge suite and everything. Like, I always wanted to go there, and we walked around the grounds, never stayed there, and then you had your experience, so I'm like, oh, I never want to stay there. So we might do. This is giving me inspiration to check Choice, and maybe we do like a day trip over there, or maybe our first night we were going to stay at that Hilton right by Baja Mar that looks really beautiful because I wanted to check it out and see how it compares. Not like a full blown resort like the Baja Mar is or anything like that, but I could be a good use of free night certs and stuff like that. But maybe I switch that night to Choice and we just go to the Atlantis for the day.
Yeah, it could be fun, and you won't regret getting to experience it, whether you stay in the hotel or not. So, talking about all this travel, you actually have your big trip. You alluded to the one to Singapore and Thailand coming up in a few weeks. So, what's the latest with that?
Yeah, so I've been trying to get my my positioning flights locked in, which is sad. We're 2 weeks out, and it's been a struggle. Usually, you find a good award overseas, the positioning flight's easy, and this is like reverse. Like I booked the Singapore flights both ways, in business class, and that was fairly easy. Did that, 5, 6 months ago or whatever, and I've been waiting and waiting to find a decently priced connecting flight, JFK both ways. If I could do Detroit to JFK, that would be preferable, but I'm open to going to the other airports and take a stab. If I just booked from the Saturday before Christmas, no, after Christmas, Saturday after Christmas to the following weekend, what kind of prices do you think you would see for that flight?
So, Detroit to New York, what are we talking about? A 800-mile flight, 900-mile
Yeah.
flight?
hmm
I don't know, $1,000?
Yeah, it's like $800 round trip for the nonstop on Delta, and talked about the Rio, how we're flying JFK down to Rio in premium economy. I booked a positioning flight there for $80, or it was like 5 or 6 thousand Delta Sky Miles. So like that's the norm. I've never had a trouble of finding any flight into New York. I've flown American into LaGuardia a whole bunch for 7,500 miles each way. Flown into Newark on United, no problem. And Delta occasionally will have like a decent, 10,000 miles, 5,000 miles, something like that, one way to the next. And I couldn't find anything for months and months and months. So I'm waiting, I'm pulling the Shawn, like, oh, last minute awards will happen. So I ended up with the most ratty setup.
Amtrak?
No, Amtrak of the skies there. So I finally broke down and drove to the airport because I had to buy a ticket for my son and me. We got $26 flights from Detroit to Minneapolis for another. He wanted to go to the Mall of America and stuff, and they cut in January. So I ended up booking that, and then I was like, oh, while I'm there, I'll just get the ticket to LaGuardia. It was a nonstop flight. It's my wife's birthday that I'm leaving on, which isn't great. So I wanted to try to leave as late as possible so I get to spend some of the day with her. And then my flight's not until 10 o'clock at night or whatever. I got all that lined up. So Spirit, I'm flying. I land as long as they don't, go bankrupt fully by then or cancel flights or delays or whatever. Supposed to get in at 4:30 in LaGuardia, and then I got to get my way over to JFK. Okay, not the worst. I'm not super excited about Spirit just because of all the issues they've had, and I don't know that I want them connecting me into an international itinerary, so a little bit nervous there. But I'm thinking, all right, I'll meet up with our buddy DDG maybe for dinner if he's available, and then go to the airport. Okay. On the way back, I found finally something popped on awards, 6,000 miles on United Life Miles to book United back Newark to Detroit, which was great. So I get in at like 5 p.m., 5:30 p.m., something like that at JFK, and then I have to get to Newark by 9:30 and get on the flight home there after doing the 17-hour flight or whatever it is back from Singapore. I don't know. I'm going to hate myself this whole time.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun, especially on the way back having to get between JFK and
Yeah.
Newark. But we talk all about some of the best advice people give is find the overseas flight, right? Don't search from your city, find the flight, and then figure out the connections later. And that's how we do it. And oftentimes that works really well because you wouldn't have found that award if you were searching from Detroit, right? You would have
Yeah.
to look from New York City. But shows you that it doesn't always sort of work out,
Yeah.
especially if it's during peak times like the holidays.
Yeah, I'm not looking for it. I'm going to be so like jet lagged and messed up and just getting off a flight. And the last thing I want to do is sit in an Uber for 45 minutes or an hour, or however long it's going to take to get from one to the next. I'm sure it's going to be expensive. And just like the rush, I mean, the thinking of it is I was going to have to spend the night and then fly out in the morning if I wanted to fly out of LaGuardia or JFK. And I'm like, I might as well take the stab at the last flight out of Newark. It's a cheap price. If I miss it, oh well, 6,000 miles, who cares? I'll just get a room somewhere around Newark and then try to get a flight out in the morning. But hopefully I should be, unless there's delays or whatever, I should be able to make it. And then I get home and get to sleep in my bed one night, one extra night, which should help with all this stuff. I don't know. I'm going to be such a mess. That Monday recording is going to be terrible.
Oh yeah. So you're getting home Sunday? What day do you get home?
Yeah. I get home.
Yeah,
Well, this will be Saturday at like midnight. So Sunday early, I'll probably get to the house at like 1-ish.
It is crazy when you travel for those. This is the longest flights you've ever done, and well, it's the longest flight in the world. So
it's the longest flight anybody's ever done, Shawn.
Yeah, exactly.
Hello.
but by far, right? It's the longest flight by far. But I just mean like where you're traveling for so long. Where I used to do these 24-hour layovers and things like that. So where your travel ends up being sort of days, and your days in transit. And it does sort of wear you down at the end of a trip. At the beginning, you're excited, you have everything ahead of you. And at the end, and I do, I think great advice for people would be to try to make your way home as simple as possible. Obviously, in your case, that wasn't possible, but it's hard to underestimate just how much you want your bed when you're 17, 18, 19 hours into a journey, and then you book something complicated and, it doesn't. But I would do the same thing. I mean, it's better than paying the crazy prices that they're charging.
Yeah, the other option, was to book something else that connects through Europe, or I get a layover in Hawaii or something like that. And I'd rather knock out one long flight and have it be done. I think that's a smoother way to do it. And so that was the key. Like I wanted that long flight. Everything else is whatever. It's now Newark to Detroit is like a 50-minute flight in the air. Like it's the easiest thing ever. So if I I'm actually dreading the Uber drive more than anything.
No, exactly. But the cool thing is you'll have toured all of the 3 major airports in New York City area. So you get the full experience of all of those places with that. So yeah, good times. I'm looking forward to kind of following that and seeing if, obviously we'll hear when you get back how it all went. I know you're doing New Year's Eve in Thailand, and you have a lot of other cool stuff planned. So can't wait for that show where you're going to be completely wrecked.
Yeah, I think I'm kicking around the idea of doing like a live article, not like a live stream, but like an article where you're just like, I forget what the name of it is. I know these are things done, but like throughout the flight, just like, all right, this is what I've been doing for this time, and slept for this long, and like just kind of like giving a piece by piece what I ate, stuff like that. I think that'd be an interesting way to do it versus just like a seat flight. I'm not interested in that type of crap. I don't, whatever. Leave that to Lucky, who's great at them. I don't need to do that. But I thought this would be kind of fun. Like, all right, I watched Rambo 5 or whatever, and the people keep interrupting me, trying to get me to get my soy sauce.
Until you get an hour in and you're like, screw this. I don't want to be doing this anymore. I just want to rest and watch movies. That's what happens to me on a plane. It's just like all the work goes out the door and I don't even want to do it. But I'm super excited for you. This is your first time in Asia, right?
Yep. Yeah. So this is a lot of longest flight, and then first time in Asia. So it should be interesting. We'll see how it all plays out. And I'm doing it in typical Mark fashion where, I'm going to be there for like on the ground for 4 days or something stupid like that.
Yeah. Talk about jet lag.
I'm an idiot.
And let's close with this. We had a question from SCSU 300. What is your go-to card or cards for flights and hotel stays in China? Any good flight itineraries? This is a really broad question, but there's a couple of things I would point you to for China. First off, the domestic airlines have a lot of domestic flights. So a lot of times the cash prices are super cheap. You can find it on Google Flights, but Ctrip, if you're looking to book anything within China, is a good website. And then for hotels, it's really just what brand you want. Hyatt has a huge presence. So if you're already a Hyatt person, like so many people in the miles and point space, Chase cards, the Hyatts there tend to be lower categories. So like the value you get, super luxurious properties with lower categories. So it's a great value. But on the flip side, Marriott, Hilton, they all have really new hotels with great luxurious offerings and a lot of times cheaper. So really just focus on the program. I think the kind of thing is traveling in China is easier than you might think it is once you sort of know the nuances of the train system and how it works. There's high speed rail between every city. So a lot of times that's easier to get around than flights. And then, like I said, cash prices of flights domestically can be cheap. And I have loved the Hyatts there through every city that I've stayed at. But I've also stayed at Marriott's and Hilton's, and they're all pretty new and nice. So it's a great place to travel. If you're a nerd for hotels, for airlines, China is a cool place. And there's a lot of value there if you're using miles and points, because the people there don't have access to all of these miles and points like we do. So you walk into a Hyatt as a globalist, they don't see globalists all that often. They treat you really well. Same with Hilton and Marriott.
Yeah, I think that's like everywhere overseas. It's always fun to see, like, oh, you're Hilton Diamond. You're like, yeah, isn't everybody like? But it's always funny. But yeah, like focus, like we just said, focus on the long flight, get that nailed down, and then once you get in country, especially, I know we just told the horror story of trying to position here, but in Europe and in Asia and stuff, the local airlines usually are very affordable. Even if you have to fly like a Ryanair in Europe or something like that, like you can get around for under a couple $100, which is really great. So just focus on getting there. Even if if you can build it into your award booking over, that's great. But if not, just get to somewhere near and you can figure your way from there.
Yeah, I'm flying Chinese Airlines, not a problem I've ever run into. Not a lot of English spoken, but they're always willing to help and you can always figure it out. I've flown domestically, I've done a bunch of that stuff. People are always willing to help you out, even if there is a language barrier in certain places. And China, an incredible place to travel. Going back there next year. It's been a few years since I've been to mainland China. Super excited. So get some more on the ground experience there to share with all of you guys. And can't wait to hear about your trip as we get ready for the end of year. Leave a comment. Let us know what you guys are doing for end of year. Are you planning your trips for next year? Are you procrastinating like me and doing all your credits now? Or were you like Mark and you did them all like a goody two shoes at the beginning?
Yeah.
Leave a comment. We have all the news on this week's 20-minute travel coming on Wednesdays. As a reminder, we do this podcast Mondays, and then Wednesdays you get all the news. Support us by subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment, thumbs up, listening to the podcast as well. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. Helps us out a lot. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.